Hey, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful empowered harmonizers. We are zooming in and focusing in on a great viewer question, and that is, why does a narcissist seek to disempower others? Why would they be so cruel? This does not make any sense. So I think that's a great viewer question, because I think it can help you once you explore and understand a little bit of the inner workings of the narcissist and the dynamics that they take, the position that they take in their dialogue and interactions with others, whom they basically take as a supply source, as a posse, really are those who seek to disempower them in order to keep the dynamic going. And even though it seems counterintuitive, why would you want to disempower your supply source? Why would you want to keep them in a state of less than if they're your supply source? It does not seem to make logical sense. Why would you want to sort of create this dynamic of, I'm the one who's up and you're the one who's down. I'm the one who has the authority. You are not the one with authority. So even, in a relationship that involves family members, neighbors, your spouse, and even in the, employer, it's a very important dynamic to understand, especially how your body has processed and digested on a neurochemical and a physiological basis, where your emotions affect your brain chemistry, and sort of back it up and understand a little bit of how things got set into motion, so you can slow it down and do a correction. So a narcissist will operate through a sense of entitlement. They have a pathological sense of self-importance, coupled with a lack of empathy. So there's a self-preservation, even if it means the exploitation or using of others, or disempowering of others, in order to keep their survival, their preservation going. And it seems counterintuitive, because they need the very people that they are disempowering. So it's kind of like a game of cat and mouse. The cat is going to, chase after the mouse, and maybe claw it a couple times till it's maybe dazed and confused, and then the mouse has complete focus on surviving from that cat, and it now, the cat is the priority. It doesn't tune into its anger. All it tunes into is sort of the survival. How do I survive with this? And so it's that sort of overwhelm, and then the fight or flight, which is then instigated in the supply source through somebody, a narcissist's pathological sense of self-importance, coupled with a lack of empathy. Meaning that it's to understand that the narcissist also has a fragile sense of self-esteem. So they will then basically overcompensate or shut down others in order for them to experience what they feel is an adequate level of self-esteem, which for them means having authority or precedence over, presiding over, meaning it's me, it's my way or the highway. There is no other option. There is no challenging. There is no discussion. There is no two-way street. And so unless people accept the authority, or quote unquote what becomes the law of the relationship, the terms of the relationship, how this is going to go, what we're going to eat, how we're going to talk, where we're going to go, what we're going to drive, what we're going to wear, what we're going to discuss, what we're going to find as our interests, what we're going to develop in this relationship, largely becomes heralded and championed by the narcissist, because they have a really deep-seated insecurity or lack of self-esteem, and really basically an inner life, within themselves. They need to take others around to replace this inner presence, and sort of understanding that things are okay, even if they're balanced, even if things are equal, even if they don't have a leg up. They want to use the charm, the sort of superficial charm that a narcissist will use, or a covert narcissist, which we'll take up in another video, and how that also affects you to be disempowered. But a narcissist will use certain specific positioning in relationships, particularly that of, either ridicule, criticism, sweet nothings that are coupled with a negative validation of others. In other words, making sarcastic jokes, which are sort of meant to jab at you, get you where it counts, get at the you so that you sort of buckle, and then you're looking at them wondering how then you can appease them so the negative process will stop. So in the relationship, in the beginning, people don't really realize that there then becomes a sort of real people-pleasing aspect to their approach in the relationship. And then because of the significance that the narcissist takes as the authority or the lawmaker, others don't really then experience a sense of lawmaker or creator of their own sort of policing of themselves while they're in the midst, if this makes any sense. So in other words, they're taking the authority and the opinion and the importance and the priority of what is going on in the environment, their relationship, their life, as this person. This person becomes precedence, becomes priority, becomes the focus. It's like the cat and mouse. The mouse, all of a sudden, all that they see is the cat, if you will. The cat and what they're going to do becomes their hypervigilance. It becomes, their fight or flight. In other words, to survive this experience, I must, So, and even though the mouse doesn't think that, what I'm trying to explain through an analogy is that it's very much like that these sort of playing and the batting around of supply sources that the narcissist will do to think that they're going to keep popping up. They're going to keep bouncing back. And oftentimes, in other words, once they make the jab, the authority, this is how we visit a party. This is how we like our music. This is how we spend our money. This is what we should focus on for our jobs. All the different really sort of strong one-sided opinions that the narcissist will communicate. It's really a very subtle sort. In other words, if you aren't like this, then you won't belong. I will not accept you. You will not be acceptable to me, i.e., you are conditionally lovable. So this message gets embedded in the supply source. In other words, please me. In other words, dress this way. In other words, talk this way. In other words, do this for me. Take care of my needs. My needs are all that there is. And it's like a pyramid, if you will. And so this becomes basically a lawmaker over people's lives. This becomes the new law. It becomes like the new world order for people, even if it's gradual or, might take place over several days, several weeks, or several years, where other people, then sort of get conditioned and programmed to take on the the law or the authority of this individual or this set of individuals. And it becomes disempowering because the supply source, they don't really experience then their own sense of lawfulness over themselves because they are rendered defunct, null and void, unimportant, not knowing where it's at. You don't, I am the boss, is sort of what they communicate. I am the leader of this posse. Your feedback doesn't really matter. It's a one-way street. So if you do not have a sense of law over yourself, if your discipline to maintain relationships becomes appeasing and pacifying and keeping the peace for this narcissistic individual, you're basically really in essence giving up a sense of human right. Your human rights, your ability to not just live life on your terms, but to have jurisdiction and regulation and discipline over yourself, specifically when it comes to your boundaries and your standards, and not being violated and not tolerating violence, rather than it becomes a sort of numbing out that the supply will have to do around a toxic narcissist in order to make the relationship work, to smooth things over, to keep the weekend happy, to keep this holiday happy, to keep this birthday happy, to keep our son happy, to keep the house happy, to keep our community happy, our workplace, whatever it is. It's like being shut down time and time again. And especially if you're in a marriage with these individuals, it can be very, very difficult because you don't feel that you have a way out. This individual is always around. Your parent is always around. The child is always around if you're living or working with this person. So there's a feeling of lack of choice, lack of options, which becomes a lack of being heard, a lack of being listened to, a lack of being understood. And if you don't feel understood, you'll quickly experience a lack of validation. So then what really sets in is a sense of negative validation. You become really defined and identify with what you are not rather than what you are. This is very disempowering, meaning it doesn't give you energy, it doesn't give you hope, it doesn't make you feel alive or that you're growing or that you're progressing in the direction of your dreams, your wants, desires, your natural happiness, sort of the natural spring that bubbles up and says, wouldn't it be nice if, and then you go and then create that. So this sort of, self-energizing, empowering energy gets sort of shut down. It's like a tank that gets sort of put into hibernation. It gets kind of shut off, and then the keys get temporarily lost or thrown away. And then you're running on another tank or another cylinder or another energy source, which is derived oftentimes from the boundaries and standards that are defined by this other person rather than self-defined. This then becomes what's known in psychology as an external locus of control versus an internal locus of control. So a narcissist will treat others according to getting what their needs are to be met. So they're the takers of the world. They're the sort of what's called the energy vampires of the world. They're the people who will, require the attention. They require the applause. They require that sort of fanning of their ego. It becomes all about the ego, and then people feel that there's something missing, something lacking, and that they will run out of energy, a feeling of emptiness. And then the problem with that is that then to offset that, then individuals, in order to survive, will end up feeling that they then need to go and pacify and please this individual, which then carries over into pleasing others as the lawmaker of how things should run. And so they never feel themselves to be sort of a lawmaker, a leader, a policing over their own boundaries and standards. It becomes sort of inoculated. It becomes extinguished. It becomes shut out. And if you're in a marriage with these individuals, then people feel, a sense of helplessness, learned helplessness, things also that we discuss here on the channel. So then the problem also is if you don't recognize this, then the cycle perpetuates and it picks up even more steam. The body will then set, even years after the relationship, the problem with disempowerment is that then the body becomes sort of addicted to this living in denial state. It becomes addicted to being disempowered. It becomes used to that new level of low stimulation and living in those sort of negative quadrants, if you will. And the negative quadrants, which can then take a whole spectrum of different emotions, but are not empowering. Apathy, guilt, shame, feeling abandoned, feeling hopeless, depressed, apathetic, all these sort of feelings that are difficult to get above. And so oftentimes that then empowered state feels foreign, it feels out of reach, it feels uncomfortable, it feels unattainable. This becomes a a flawed thinking as the result of being a supply source and always, hearkening over and listening to the policing, the laws of the narcissist. So it's very important that you understand the dynamics and the cause that's created this effect, and not identify yourself, your I am, with all these lower energies. I call them nod thinking, feeling, behaving. Nod, negative orderly direction, meaning it's setting you backwards, it's setting you regressive, it's setting you backsliding. It's, you're not keeping your eyes looking forward. You're not juiced, excited, enthusiastic, living in your passion, living in your eternal flame, loving life, living the dream. You no longer feel that, life holds these opportunities for you. It becomes an automatic shutdown where you're, once again, that tank, that cylinder, is that fuel is not sort of ignited and energizing and generating your life. Instead, which I call positive orderly direction, thinking, feeling, behaving, and doing, which is sort of going up and then over and to the right direction, it becomes going way down, deeper into the valley. People have the valley moments. They feel, the dark night of the soul, the dark year of the soul. It might be with you for a long period of time. And, feeling, all the adrenal fatigue, all the immune system disorders that, these relationships cause stress, because in order to please the narcissist, people then get to thinking, well, what do I need to do to keep the relationship where it was before? And so it's the people pleasing. I'm going to give you the back scratch. I'm going to rub the feet. I'm going to make the dinner. I'm going to take care of this. I'll take care of that. We will listen to the music. We'll do your choice. There becomes a lack of sort of alignment with your own values and your own empowerment, and then living according to your proper judgment and being able to look forward, which is really what we talk about in the neurochemistry, when things are balanced neurochemically, and then the emotions also, because the negative emotions then affect the brain chemistry and then one's decision making and judgment. So it can become very disempowering. And so it is very important that you understand the cause that's created this effect, this feeling, and then be willing to let go of this sort of lawlessness that's taken over your own blueprint, your own emotional direction, your own outlook, your own sense of self, your own sense of I am. Rather than being defined by the negative, the I am nots, I don't have, and I am depressed, I am apathetic, have bad taste in music, bad taste in food, whatever, all the different critical, sort of condescending, belittling, coupled with, a hug. Oh, you're so stupid, hug. These are the problems that really sort of seep into someone's physiology, and then thus their emotions, their neurochemistry, and then their I am. So they become defined by other people versus self-defined, self-governing, self-actualizing, and really sort of having law and police over your own emotions and your own boundaries, and doing it in a way that is effective and empowering to you, meaning giving you impetus, giving you juice, giving you steam. Because oftentimes if you've held on for that for too long, once again, the mind and the body is addicted to the negative, and it will perpetuate that to keep that lawlessness going, if you will. And so it becomes very difficult and foreign and uncomfortable to get back to a positive sense of self. So you really need to allow some time to detach and get the skill of letting go of this as precedence and priority and law over your life, if you will. Does that make sense? I hope people understand how influential a narcissist can be towards sort of usurping that energy and making the precedents and the rules over which you navigate your direction, your enthusiasm, your decision making, your judgment, and your ability to sort of visualized, which is a natural ability, which becomes defunct. Defunct meaning shut down, extinguished, really in the process. So if it's been a long time coming, I mean, this, you might have experienced this since age, day one. You might have experienced this from age, day seventh year of your life. You might have experienced this since your early 20s. You know best of really when this was set up. So it's okay to uncover the truth. It is okay to look reality square in the face. It is safe to embrace your empowerment. It is okay. Don't worry about it. You are where you are supposed to be. If you found this video, then this is the right time. I have a lot of viewers who say, I wish I found this 20 years ago, and they have a sense of mourning or anger. The anger is going to come from a sense of loss. I've lost time. I've lost opportunity. Don't live in that regret. You can mourn and sort of the passing of the time, but also rejoice in the recovery of your awareness and your I am, especially as it's built around the positive. And you're really, really going to need to resensitize yourself and get comfortable with the I am in a sense of the positive. I am strong. I am abundant. I am a powerful being. I am connected to the Creator. And that is magnificent. And being able to define yourself and know who you are just in a state of being. You don't have to create that sort of life the way the narcissist did, that toxic ego-based lifestyle. That is not where it is at, especially when you find out years later that the narcissist, this happened, that happened, and you say, okay, now it makes sense. But rather than waiting for that other shoe to drop and then find out, that their marriage didn't work, their job didn't work, their happiness didn't work, they got way into drinking, drugs, they gambled their house away, whatever it is that they did, you don't have to wait for that external locus of control to get, the truth within you. You're going to need to embrace this at the very, very beginning, central. I am. And it seems so simple. It seems so fundamental. I should know this. But do you really? You need to understand that lurking really beneath all this is a lot of self-limiting, self-sabotaging beliefs. Meaning the belief is really sort of this oftentimes nebulous, oftentimes undefined, unspoken impetus or source of your actions. And how you feel on your belief of self will determine what you pay attention to, how you open up your awareness and consciousness and let the light in, so to speak, to let the messages come in, to let the aha moments. This is what I've been missing. This is what I've been meeting. This is what I've been talking about. Finally, somebody gets it. You need to be able to speak about these experiences, or at least share them in the privacy of these videos, to work through these things on a day-to-day. Moving from disempowerment to empowerment, it is on the daily. It is on the I am. It is where the juice is. It is where the passion and the excitement. And it is where your true needs and your relationship needs get met and to self-actualize in order to basically fulfill the positive blueprint for what I call your internal real estate to get erected, to get everything in place so that you've got a foundation on the positive I am, and not have it, sort of with gaps and delays, where people in their communication, they just sort of, they have a difficulty communicating in the beginning. This is normal. Don't worry about it. It will get better. But it's very important that you understand the cause has created this effect and be willing to let go. Be willing to release. Be willing to sort of let go and sort of liberate from those imprints, from that law, making that was oftentimes assigned by the narcissist. And not to just question the authority, but to recognize that you do have authority speaking within that can get you moving outside of that funk, out of that disempowerment. And to realize that you don't need, your lack of empowerment is not serving others. So before, where perhaps it seemed like the best decision, the best option, the way that you coped, in other words, it had that purpose at that time frame, at that period or stage of your life, it could have gone on for several years. It might have gone on for a long period of time where you were not plugged in the way that you deserve and have your human right to be plugged in and to be heard, listened to develop, to explore your talents, what it is that you have within that leads you to happiness and light and laughter and joy. And once again, it doesn't have to be all the doings of the ego, the trappings of the ego. Oftentimes it's something, intangible. It is a feeling, it is a B state. But guess what? B states aren't advertised. Happiness is oftentimes tied to narcissistic, ego-based situations. So you're only perpetuating the ego. You're only perpetuating the I don't have enough. You're only perpetuating that I am not enough, or I don't have what is needed. I need to get these socks. I need to get, whatever it is. I don't fit in, I don't belong, is usually the message of the narcissist. Unless you do this, you will not belong. So it's conditional based acceptance. This is too difficult and stressful to live like that. You just can't have that external locus of control. It will be disempowering. It will not bring you the happiness that you thought was going to bring you to the happiness point. It's just not the right direction. But life does take U-turns, and so you can see where you're perhaps led down that direction, and it's now time to be able to lead yourself and embrace this. I am. And oftentimes it just needs to begin at the very crossroads where you find yourself now. I am. It is safe to let go. It is safe to let go. It is okay. It is not a worry to the universe for me to let go. And so it is. And the universe embraces and applauds my opening of awareness towards releasing and letting go this that has had captor over my soul and my vision and my ability to tap into my own sense of personal power. And realizing that this was it was a fundamental requirement at a period of time that you adhered, but now it's time to adhere within. Sort of, I don't want to say attach within, but begin to resolve and attach to an internal locus of control, which is always with you, and to really become more familiar and more attentive and sharper skills. It sounds so basic, but yet the pros have done the basics over and over and over again. All the greatest athletes, have practiced, for example, in basketball, their free shoot. It seems very unexciting just to practice free shooting, correct? But once they're on the court in the middle of the game, it's just automatic muscle memory, and it will serve them time and time again. It makes them the best in the world. The same is true with empowerment. Really getting into the basics, knowing what the very basic is. How do you line your foot up? How do you crouch your body? Where do you look? How do you hold your hands in your wrist? How do you throw the ball? These are analogies for your own individual emotional empowerment and energizing. And it has to begin with the I am. I am. And as you ring that out, as it rings through the hills, you're recognizing something within. Even if you don't know what it is within, that's okay. Don't worry about it. I am. And it's your I is really speaking through volumes like the layers of an onion. So I am, it might be one layer and then another layer and another layer and many, many layers, but I am. needs to be your proclamation. And you don't have to define yourself. You don't have to judge yourself, label, or any of that nature. I am. It doesn't, I am, all those definers, can come, but we want it on the positive and embracing that. But in the beginning, you must understand I am. I am. Because as you speak that, you are acknowledging and validating something greater and bigger within, which is unseen and unknown and untapped within you. And it seems so simple. How could it be so simple? Because that is really what it is to recognize and give acknowledgement to that which is. It's developing, which will become a growing reverence, and then a growing you are right, that you're then on that right path. And then you'll be able to say, wow, I really need to listen and pay attention. And a lot of people procrastinate on this because they don't believe that they can be all that the I am that they feel is, in store for them. The I am, as you speak that, your mind, as you begin to speak it, your mind will begin to auto-generate. And maybe not in the beginning. This might take some time, but we've got time to speak that out. And then your mind will eventually begin to visualize defining on the positive. And you'll know it from within. It'll generate. It is the way how that inner source works. And you want to be able to hear that, see it, know it, and get it into a tangible basis. I am. Even if it seems effortless, let the effortless be, because it's basically, the winds of that inspiration and that empowerment coming back within. You're restoring and you're reigniting that piston, that tank within you, that source which has been untapped, which is, it's time to brush it off, it's time to dust it off, and it's time to see it shine and allow that to be. But you have to be able to know the I am and to be able to speak it out loud, even if on your car, on a walk, in the privacy of your home. What is everybody going to say? Why am I walking around? I am. You need to get this, and then speaking it out loud allows your actual ears to hear yourself, hearing yourself in the way that you needed others to hear you. And then you're also, opening up that reservoir within, which is those vocal cords that need to make that vibration. And then for your body to pick up that vibration as well, where you're hearing and feeling and knowing the message. It is very simple. I want you just to tap into that in the beginning so you can know the power of I am. This is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today, and I hope that these videos help. Please share, please subscribe, and please join the membership of Peace, Harmony, or Peace